But anyway, we're going to turn to another critically important issue that is the ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo and many of the other issues that are resulting from that there in the DRC. And we are very, very honored to be joined here once again on the show by Kambale Musavuli, who is an analyst with the Center for Research on the Congo-Kinshasa. Kambale, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for keep shining the light on the Congo.
Listen, it's all we can do here. It's critically important, and people need to know. You know, this morning, of course, there's and today a lot of concern in the eastern part of the Congo because of the ongoing offensive by M23 backed by Rwanda. Many fears that the main city of eastern Congo, Goma, could fall. In a way, I guess I wonder what you make of the fact that the conflict is ongoing. I mean, we've had a couple false dawns of alleged, peace negotiations happening between DRC and Rwanda, mediated by Angola. Most of that did not take place. And it just seems like this M23 is perpetually on the march and keeping the region in conflict. And I just wonder your view on where things stand now.
I think when we are looking at the situation in the Congo and we hear the different names and acronyms of militia groups, it makes it hard for people to really understand who are these people, right? Even when we call them the M23, it gives them some legitimacy, right? The M23 are fighting the Congolese government, the Congolese government forces, but we must be very clear who they are. This is the Rwandan Defense Force. The UN report that was just published in December of 2024, the second report they published in 2024, clearly documents, once again, that the Rwandan military is supporting these rebels and providing them with logistical support, arms, and so on. And when we think about the Rwandan government, Rwanda is a country with its government providing support to a rebel group, one should ask, why is Rwanda supporting rebel groups in the Congo? Why are they providing them weapons and support? It's very simple. It's to get access to Congo's mineral resources at a very cheap price. The displaced population, bring in population to take control of the land that's been vacated by the millions of Congolese who've been displaced, and commit heinous crimes, which according to the United Nations, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possible genocide if proven in a competent court. So we know who is committing these crimes, we know who is backing them, and we also know Rwanda is a small country, probably in terms of their population, they can't even size up with the Congo. About 50 million people. Congo has about 120 million citizens. That we know that they could not do this without the backing of the United States. And there is a country in the world that does the same thing. That's Israel, right? Israel has been killing Palestinians with no accountability, backed by U.S. taxpayers' money. And the Israel of Africa is Rwanda, committing these crimes while not being held accountable. Now, you started by saying that Goma is about to be taken by rebels. There is this fear and populations are being displaced. But as we have this conversation about Goma being taken, we have to superimpose it to what is happening right now in Davos, right? The president of the Congo is in Davos with John Kerry, where they are discussing extending the so-called Lobito corridor from the Zambia-Angola border all the way up to the eastern part of Congo, right? The Congolese president is seeking about $1 billion to do so. And surprisingly, as this discussion is taking place, we see a flare in the attacks from the rebels. And what I've noticed over the years is that when there are major actions taking place in the Congo, rebels always push the Congolese government to go into the negotiating table so that they have to have a say. So what is this Lobito corridor about? This Lobito corridor is about getting access to copper, to cobalt, to lithium that Congo has, right? So if they have to extend it all the way to the northeast, right, to Kolwezi, we have one of the largest reserve of lithium in the world at the Manono mine, right? That we know that is what's existent. But how do you put that in the context of what's happening around the globe? At the same time, Donald Trump has just said that he's going to invest $500 billion for AI infrastructure, artificial intelligence infrastructure in the United States. The US cannot compete in AI without having access to raw materials. And guess where these raw materials are coming from? From the heart of the African continent, and it's being discussed at Davos while rebels are threatening to take over the city of Goma. So that's the geopolitics of how to look at what is happening there, that the Congolese, since the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, have continuously fought to regain control of their land and resources for the benefit of the Congolese people. But at every stage they try to do so, through different actors, sometimes Congolese actors, sometimes neighbor countries such as Rwanda and Uganda, sometimes multinationals, and sometimes these conferences at Davos where Congolese citizens are not being part of the decision of the Lobito corridor, are finding out that the minerals are going to be controlled by foreign interests. So that is what is at stake in the Congo as we look at these M23 rebels threatening to take over the city of Goma.
And Kambale, can you explain where the Congolese government is on this? Is that are Congolese authorities even capable of fighting back? Are they fighting back? What's the situation on the ground in terms of pushing back against M23?
The Congolese people, even beyond the government, can fight back. But we have a few challenges. One is even how Congolese law is written, right? So people always wonder about why can't Congolese just pick up a gun and fight? We don't have the right to have weapons, right, as citizens to protect ourselves. The laws are much differently. We have an army. Our army is composed of former rebels. So the rebels of yesterday, through the peace negotiations, decisions come out as saying that we have to mix the army. So there was signed an accord where the rebels of yesterday are now generals wearing Congolese army uniform. When we even speaking about the M23 rebels today, their commanders were part of the Congolese army in past peace accords, and they've continued to commit crimes as well. We also have a challenge with the Congolese bourgeoisie, right? The Congolese bourgeoisie have their own self-interest. So on one hand, there is a city being threatened to be taken over by rebels, the M23 rebels. On the other hand, you have the president of the Congo at Davos. You have the Minister of Communication of the Congo in Paris to meet French entrepreneurs, French enterprises and businesses to invest in the Congo. And you have the president of the National Assembly in Vietnam also discussing businesses, right? That you can see that the interest is not even to bring an end to the conflict, but who will bring an end to the conflict? I do believe that Congolese have to play a role. They are playing a role in bringing an end to the conflict. But the Congo's conflict is not just a Congolese affair. When we are fighting soldiers, Rwanda Defense Force soldiers, who are actually have equipment to shoot down drones, right? It's not an easy thing as saying, what is the Congolese army saying? And what am I talking about, right? The Congolese government bought 4 Chinese drones, the C4, CH4 drones. And 3 of them were put out of commission by rebels shooting down the drones. I mean, did these rebels buy it at Walmart or eBay? No. I mean, they got it directly from the Rwandan government, the Rwandan military. And where did the Rwandan military get anti-drone equipment? We know that they got it from Poland because Poland announced that they sold this anti-drone radar to the Rwandan government, thanks to the EU support of the Rwandan government in 2023 and 24. They gave them over 20 million euros of military equipment to the Rwanda regime. So why is Rwanda being supported, right? I keep saying Rwanda, an African country being supported by Western nations. But they are actually the neo-colonial agents on the continent. They are the proxy mercenaries for Western interests. For example, our people in Mozambique know the devastating role Rwandan soldiers are doing in Mozambique. One, protecting French interests, Total, the oil company, and also other missions across the continent, like in Mali, in Central African Republic. So when Western nation, Europe or the United States, need to do certain things on the African continent, they rely on the African partners, such as Rwanda, such as Uganda, such as Kenya. So Congolese are not fighting just the Rwandan army, right? They're also fighting their backers. And that's also, if you have to think about what's happening in Palestine, as Palestinians are fighting for self-determination and liberation, they're not just fighting the Israeli military. They're actually fighting also the US military, which is providing this equipment. Because of that, it makes it very hard to stop the conflict. We do believe that in terms of reining in Rwanda, we will require a lot of Africans to take part of the discussion. SADC countries have played a role in putting pressure, but this issue has to be seen as an African affair and have more people engaged in holding Rwanda accountable while Congolese are dealing with the internal issues to solve the challenges with the compradors that they have in the country.
Well, you mentioned the compradors and the other elements of the bourgeoisie leading the country, and I want to ask you about another issue that has made a lot of news, and that is the at least possibility of mass executions. I believe it's 170 people facing execution. I know it's been an issue that popular movements in the Congo have raised quite a bit around state of emergencies and things like that, and the way repression has been used. Human rights groups are speaking out, but maybe give people some context to why a mass execution wave is being carried out, and then I'd be curious your thoughts about sort of how it fits into this broader picture you're painting.
Definitely. In the context of war, and we've seen that also in Ukraine, oppressive government also use draconian laws to rein in their citizens. So on one hand, Congo is fighting a war to stop rebels backed by our neighbors. On the other hand, the Congolese government used this moment to pull out a moratorium on death penalty. Congo, by law, has death penalty, but for the past 20 years, there's been a moratorium where death penalty will not be used. But in the context of war, the Congolese government has reinstituted that law, saying that they will use it for people who are committing violent crimes or traitors who are collaborating with the rebels. So to say they may be soldiers and others threatening, being traitors in the government. But that's not how this law is being used now, and it's very worrisome. What is being presented in the press is that the Congolese justice system, through its justice minister, have launched a campaign to arrest young people who are part of gangs. And I think El Salvador had to deal with that too. And they've arrested hundreds of them, young gang members, tried them, and found them guilty of heinous crimes. And many of them have committed crimes. And they are all awaiting capital punishment, meaning they're on death row right now. But at the same time that this is happening, there are people, we wonder why they are on death row. We have a case of a young person who is not a street kid in the province of Equateur, who is on death row right now as a gang member. So we're wondering how he ended up. Not only that, last year in the Congo, there was an attempted coup where hundreds of people were arrested. There was a IDF soldier arrested with 2 other Americans arrested, and then others were killed. So with those arrested, they are also awaiting death penalty. They have been sentenced. But in that group, there is one person who was arrested after this coup from what we saw in the court case for having a picture with the coup leader. So they found a picture of him with the coup leader, and they created an association of him with the coup leader. I'm speaking about Jean-Jacques Wanda, who is a Congolese analyst. He has Belgian citizenship. He lived in Belgium. He was brought into the Congo by security services as a consultant, and then found himself arrested as plotting a coup against the Congolese government. All the evidence provided does not make any sense. And he's been found guilty, and he's awaiting to be actually killed. So we are all asking ourselves, how come it's very easy for the Congolese government to arrest young thugs, gang members, to arrest Congolese intellectuals and put them on death row? Yet those who are committing the worst crimes, such as the Minister of Finance, Nicole Kazadi, who sold to the Congolese government a well for over $100,000. There is an embezzlement case of over $70 million taken from state coffers, where they were charging for light bulb for streets $5,000, for wells $100,000, for these economic crimes, where we know who these people are, where they are, where the crimes have been committed, who they are. None of them are being arrested, tried, and killed. So we're seeing this moratorium being removed as a way to target oppositions. Even when we're speaking about these young thugs that we call kulunas in the Congo, they have been used even by the current regime during protests. In past protests, when young Congolese will protest for having elections, the regime will actually pay these gang members money to go assault protesters. So yesterday, these gang members were allied to the government. Today, they're on death row, and those who are committing economic crimes, they're not being held accountable. So that's a very worrisome trend. As I say, it's not just in Congo. We've seen that in Ukraine. We've seen that in El Salvador, in countries that is used to distract for the inadequacy of the current regime to address the economic problems of the country, the security issues, and the large will of the Congolese people to see a new Congo. So it's a distraction, but we should lift up the names of those who are being arrested unjustly and keep an eye on the situation in the Congo, so that people are very clear that as of today, we are still fighting for a new Congo, no matter the challenges, be it from our neighbors, be it from our internal challenges, or be it from the international actors who want to take control of our wealth.
Well, we will do everything we can here to keep eyes on the Congo. As always, Kambale Musavuli, an analyst with the Center for Research on the Congo Kinshasa, thank you for some of your time here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you always.